What's up, guys? Farooqi Bros here, back with another Built Different stream. And this week, it's a pretty, it's a smaller show, but we're going to be talking about Dune, which is the biggest movie of the year. So let's talk about that right now and get it started. I'm going to keep it pretty simple, but I think all of us did like the movie. So while we'll do our quick thoughts about it, I kind of want to jump to what a lot of people are debating right now is if Dune is the best movie of the year so far. I mean, of course, there's a few months left. But so, Ziana, I'll start with you. Number one, what did you think of Dune? And number two, would you say it's the best movie of the year right now?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, the four of us, I think, are pretty much consensus with our opinion on the film. On every category, think of acting, the score, the cinematography, the CGI, everything was just at the top level that you can possibly get in this kind of field. Comparing to other movies, obviously this year, I think it is the best one because of those same categories. Because it's just unmatched in every single way. That when you come out of it, you're like, okay, this felt different. This felt like a special experience that you really did not get this year in terms of films. So I think just because of that, just that raw reaction, that feeling coming out of the theater, and even during watching it, you know that okay, there's a different level of craft to this film that other films like do not have or don't have that feel. So hats off to Denis Villeneuve, because he really went off with this film. I know we really enjoyed Blade Runner 2049 also, but this I think was his best film in my opinion, and it was the best film of the year so far. And even looking ahead, I know another stream I was like, oh, I think maybe Matrix will be better, but all those thoughts have been dispelled. I think even with the films that are slated to release in the rest of the year, I think nothing will top Dune and what this film accomplished.
It's funny because I was thinking about that stream as well, where you said Matrix might be the best movie of the year, and Samir's been pretty consistent even from throughout 2021, and so again, he's been right about a few things this year. So we'll give it to him again. That you said Dune will be arguably the goated film of 2021, and now it's out. So and it looks like Zion already conceded that you were right on this one. So how did you feel about Dune, Samir?
Yeah, like you said, I was anticipating this movie the entire year. Now that I watched it, it was an amazing experience. I agree with Jan completely. The one problem I had with this movie was it did feel like it was building up to something that never came, because obviously it was building up to more sequels. Like he was building up to meeting Zendaya's character, and when it happened, the credits started rolling. So that was the only gripe I had. But the stuff that was happening in between, Paul's visions and his character arc. I thought that was great. I thought all the visuals were great, and it was an amazing movie. Definitely the best.
Samir's cutting just a little bit right now. So, Umar, we'll jump to you. What did you think about the movie? Are you in agreement with Zian and Samir? I know Samir's frozen mid-thought, but no, he's back. Do you agree that that is the best movie of the year for you? Because I know out of all of us, you've been the most skeptical of the trailers. You're like, I don't know. Yeah, I got to see it to believe it. So now that you watched it one time, where do you kind of stand on the spectrum of best movie of the year or just a great movie?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'll tackle the question from a different angle. I think that we've talked a lot about films versus movies, and kind of like there's different tastes. People have different tastes and stuff. And I think that this is definitely a film rather than something that the MCU releases every year, or even what DC does with their films now. So it's like it's looked at a different angle, and we usually break it down by the score, by the cinematography, the visuals, the character arcs, and like we kind of go deeper into these types of films, and rightfully so, because like Zian said, every point in this movie, like every point, and I'll touch more on the score because you guys have already touched on everything else. I think the score was pretty impactful. Like they used it pretty well, and I think the pacing was slow at certain points, but the score kind of kept you in it. And I think that when you have like a really, really good score, and then everything else also very good, but it's like a very impactful score, I think that kind of elevates that movie and can put it, for those fans that are more into like the movie side rather than the films. I think are kind of this helps them like kind of stay in it. And so I think from that angle, the movie did really well. It's definitely, as a film, is definitely the best what the year had to offer. I think it did pretty much blow everything else out of the water, and so I don't really have a disagreement with y'all on that front. I think the one place where I thought it was kind of slow, or rather that I thought it was kind of slow, and I think there's points where you could have easily chopped things, but at the same time, I like the idea. I like the full gambit of it, and that's why I gave it a 4.9. Is because that's my only real gripe. Everything else is very good.
Yeah, I mean, I got a chance to see it twice now through various press screenings, once at the WB office, once in IMAX. And definitely, number one, this movie does benefit from the biggest screen possible, which is why I get in hindsight why the director, Denis Villeneuve, was so angry when this movie was coming to HBO Max simultaneously, which it is right now. It's available for those who are in areas where there's no movie theaters or there's other restrictions for the pandemic. Then, of course, HBO Max is a viable option, but honestly, this movie does benefit with the way it was shot. Lots of wide shots, lots of big overall encompassing shots. So a TV screen just does, even if your TV screen is big, it just doesn't give the same translation. And even watching it on a regular movie theater and IMAX theater, it did a world of difference in terms of how the movie is seen. So I personally gave the movie a 5 out of 5, and I did call it the best movie of the year in my review, which, again, shameless plug, is available on Rotten Tomatoes on the Dune page. But I also compared it to Lord of the Rings and Star Wars. In this case, I compared to Star Wars original trilogy and Lord of the Rings. And the reason I compared it to those is because there's something about this movie that feels kind of old world, not in terms of old world as in what's going on in the movie, but old world in terms of filmmaking techniques. And call it what it is, whether you love the MCU or not, that especially Avengers 2012, starting from there forward, Blockbuster Studios, they changed the way they make movies, and everything is about fast pacing, lots of jokes, lots of action sequences, can keep the attention span of the viewer going from point to point, from act to act, and Dune does not follow that formula at all. We can make cases actually too slow of a pacing for those who are very used to the superhero model, which is no longer a superhero model, because even if you're watching a regular blockbuster, I would say even the new Star Wars movies or new pop culture movies in general, they're following the Marvel formula in terms of how to craft the movie, right, for general audiences. And of course, if your movie keeps making billions of dollars, you're going to keep crafting it to the point where even DC's doing it with Aquaman and Shazam and so forth, right? So the formula is the formula of what a modern blockbuster is, but Dune feels like Fellowship of the Ring. It feels like the original Star Wars Episode 4. So that's what I meant when I said old world. So Dune overall, I would say, it felt like a breath of fresh air because it was so slow paced, because it took its time with setting up the scenery, setting up the score, setting up the characters, and it was very minimalist in some approaches too. Like Samir said, like even the ending, you can make a case that it was kind of building up to a sequel, but it kind of ended on it didn't end on a high note. Like the high note you could make a case was earlier in the movie, and instead you end on like kind of like a medium note that here is a level playing field, and the movies that we're building up to is gonna take it to the next level. And those who've read obviously the Dune books, it's a very dense story, will obviously know what's coming next. But for those who are just into it fresh on a filmmaking perspective, there's a lot of excitement to be had. So the way the movie's doing is not bad. It did about 40 million in the US, which is the best since Joker. Again, pandemic reasons, 40 million didn't seem like a lot compared to what we're used to, but that's what it did, which is the best of a dual HBO Max and theatrical release. And on top of that, it was the director Denis Villeneuve's best opening weekend, and it has 200 million worldwide. So it's enough where I feel like tomorrow I won't be surprised if they go out and announce a sequel. I know director Ann Sarnoff said that she's expecting a sequel, so we'll see when that gets announced. I do think, and this is a question for Zian, that a mistake they made with the movie is not following Lord of the Rings in this aspect. Peter Jackson shot all three movies together, so that made sure that even if a movie didn't do well, which in this case Lord of the Rings did do well, they didn't have to go bring all the actors back and start shooting it all over again and delaying a movie. Because we shot all 3 Lord of the Rings movies together, then you could release them in quick order. So do you think they made a mistake where they didn't shoot Dune at least in 2 parts, shoot 2 parts together?
Yeah, I definitely was a mistake. I know that's one thing we talked about coming back from one of the press screenings, that they should have done it, because it's the fear that, okay, whereas this is before Ant saw enough statements obviously about the Dune sequel, we're thinking, okay, what is their mindset in terms of how much are they looking for to greenlight a sequel? And obviously now what we're hearing, or the statements that were made, it seems like, okay, they're going to greenlight it now. Obviously after the performance it had, it's even more likely. But just to calm everybody, just to clear everybody's heads, it would have been nicer for them to have obviously filmed everything together. Maybe, I'm not sure if that was the director's call or not. I feel like that seems more like a studio decision where they didn't want to pour that much money into it so soon. So they broke it down to, okay, you get this much budget just to film your first part, and then after that we'll see, maybe this will actually play into the next part getting even higher budget than the first film, because of the performances doing it, because of how it's being taken in by the critics and the public audience as well. So in some ways it's like a negative, some ways it's a positive, but in my opinion it would have been nicer to just have that peace of mind that, okay, this was already shot, it's already filmed, and you have all the actors. It won't be like scheduling conflicts down the road or something like that, because you have a huge cast, a lot of wide-ranging characters and actors. So it's like you want to make sure you can get everybody together for that second part, and those kind of small things, those kind of technicalities would have been a non-issue if they filmed together. But I'm obviously optimistic that the second part will come out, and the faster they start on that, the better it'll be.
Yeah, like there's a lot of story to tell, and even if they just wanted to tell Dune, as I almost tripped my laptop over, I guess if they only want to tell the story of the first Dune book, so they need to get this started. And I think there's an interview, it's not confirmed, so I'm sorry for not fact checking this, but I did read on social that they said that if it gets announced, they would film this winter. So I think they would probably, if it gets announced, if things can go quick enough, they would want to start soon. But again, that part of information is not, I don't think I have it fact checked. But yeah, overall, I do think they should have shot it together. But I guess since they're not doing it, current blockbuster, the way things are going, the pandemic, it makes sense that these things aren't going to happen in today's world. But it's going to be interesting to see kind of how it goes. But Umar, I'm going to call you out because you gave the movie a 4.9 out of 5, which normally we do 4.5s, we do 5s, but you had that 0.1 down. So you want to tell me like what the 0.1 was for?
Pacing. It was slow. It was just at certain points it was slow, and so I wouldn't give it a 5 just because of that.
So you got to get it 0.1 down, not 0.2, but just 0.1.
Just 0.1 to show that it's actually perfect. Like the movie's actually very good. Like it's just a hair shy of what I would give a 5. And
I heard, Umar, you were talking kind of behind the scenes before Samir jumped on for prep, and I think you had a question for Samir, like about some scene differences. Yeah, so you want to ask Samir the question on behalf of us?
Yes, Samir, what do you think about that orange? There's a lot of orange in that movie, man. I know you hate orange a lot, but a lot of orange in that movie.
Yeah, I mean, it was in a desert. It wasn't like fake fire orange.
Fake fire orange. Okay, cool. So it's just the subtle difference between Nightmare Sequence and
Nightmare Sequence was ugly as hell, bro. I don't know what you're talking about. It was shot like cinema.
Samir, what did you think about the parallels between Cyborg's vision of the future and Paul's vision of the future? That's pretty similar, right? I know you really love that part.
I don't know about that. I guess it was just handled well. It was handled better by Dune because, that's cinema.
Oh, so you're saying that if Dune is cinema, then another movie is not cinema, in your opinion?
I mean, you talked about the formula. That's not just basically follows that formula. It's like it's moving extremely fast, but it's like 5 hours long of just fight scenes, and then there's just random slow-mo. In this movie, there was slow-mo, but it made sense for every character. The slow motion was happening when Paul was having his visions, and it was working on the character development. That it was like Wonder Woman is slow-mo throwing some guy into a wall. It was like, okay, and then he's like bleeding out. Plus it's Justice League, so it's like they don't even kill. But that's like a whole other thing.
Umar, do you have a response to that, or we're just gonna let Samir slide and keep on moving on?
Yeah, let's keep on moving on. Actually.
All right, so we were talking about cinema. We're talking about things that look in like have a certain look and feel, and have even the cinematography as character, which in this case Dune definitely does. I mean, every single shot has character, it has feeling. And then the next topic shows some shots that came out that don't have much feeling. So I want to just show this shot from Empire of Spider-Man: No Way Home. First of all, director Jon Watts did comment at the Empire magazine and said that it's a very ambitious movie, and he actually compared it, saying this is kind of like Spider-Man Endgame. But the specific shot I thought was very funny. I don't know if it's intentional in the studios to make a meme out of it, but I thought that, usually Empire magazine, when they're putting together a big special for a movie, in this case front page cover story, they get the nicest stills, right? But this was one of the two stills that was released. So I don't know, Xian, has your confidence waned on this movie based on the still?
Yeah, I know. Just like you said, when you think of Empire, you think of like the film features they've done. They always choose these beautiful stills of the film to really showcase how like magnificent it is. And this just looks like a screenshot of a movie. Like it wasn't even an actual still; it's just like a screenshot that they paused and ripped out. And it obviously looks very flat and very plastic. It looks like Spider-Man 3, the PS3 game, which if anybody knows that game, you know what it's like. And you look at it, it's like it just something doesn't look right. It looks off. Obviously, it looks very flat where there's no depth to the shot composition. So everything seems like it's like it just looks off. It looks wrong. And obviously, people are talking about, oh yeah, Spider-Man is running, and people have theories that okay, yeah, since his eyes are like not lit up, his suit's like turned off or something's wrong with it. And obviously Doc in the background, clearly CGI, but you could have shown a better shot where he looks a little nicer. This looks like really bad. It looks like rubber. And it's like okay, in a film when you're watching it and it's very fast paced, one frame like that, it won't make a difference. So I don't think in the film actually it'll look that bad, but I think just that they pulled out this one frame, it was a bad choice because this is not a good looking shot. In the film, though, I think obviously when it's going in succession, you won't notice these small issues, but it was surprising to see such a poor looking shot pulled out for this piece.
Yeah, I mean, it's worth saying that, again, there was two shots. The second of the two was much nicer. But for this shot, I did see some social media theories as well that we saw in the trailer. He has his Iron Spider costume out. So maybe it's like a joke scene where he takes his Iron Spider out to fight Doc Ock, and Doc Ock just rips them all off. And he's like, all right, time to run. So he books it. But I think overall the shot to me also looks pretty bad. You mentioned depth of field is something I was mentioning on the chat in the morning, so that was my point. Thank you so much. But the difference between depth of field, I mean, you could look at this shot from the Batman trailer. This is depth of field. This is showing, you can tell there's different elements, like there's layers to the shot, and this one feels like just one thing going on. It's like one kind of drawing of some kind. But Samir, we talked about cinematography. You had much to say about Justice League. So do you have any thoughts about this specific cinematography?
And when the trailer first came out, I said it looked pretty bad. It still looks pretty bad. This is why I think Eternals will be one of the better MCU movies, because so far we've heard that it doesn't follow that same formula, and cinematography is much better than shots like this. But when I saw the trailer in the theater yesterday, I thought it looked kind of better than it did when I first saw it. But then they released this Empire magazine stuff also, which makes it look worse again. So I don't know. I have no faith in the movie right now. I'll have to wait till another trailer for that.
I mean, also what didn't help is that I think the Spider-Man trailer for us came. It came before the Batman trailer, right, Samir?
Yeah.
So it was followed by the Batman trailer, and then
they played Eternals trailer, then they played Spider-Man trailer, and then they played the Batman trailer.
So you could like literally tell the difference in like what's going on.
So you're saying, Umar, that you think that this shot is better than this one?
Stupid. I said I said that.
What is your opinion on this, bro?
My thoughts on that is freaking garbage. Is what it is. Like, look at that. What the hell is that? That's not Doc Ock. It's someone else. That looks like freaking. I'm not gonna say it. It just looks bad. It looks like just a bad shot.
It looks like Doc Ock from the Spider-Man ride at Universal. Even that looks a little
Batman
better.
ride at Universal was sharper than that, and for those that that've gone, they know it's not really that like a lot of things happening. It's not supposed to be that sharp. It's supposed to be sharper than a freaking movie like this.
Right. No, but
it's really bad. This movie's been marketed like garbage. Like they actually
Oh,
haven't
yeah, oh.
marketed. Yeah, the
That's
marketing has just been
completely
really
right, yeah.
bad.
That's
The
the
first
thing.
trailer was nothing. There's a lot of nothing.
Marvel, they're not even marketing it. It's like they're just all these theories are coming out, and the fans are marketing themselves between each other. It's like we're
there's no
creating the
poster.
hype up for the film, but they're not doing anything.
There's still no poster. Like theaters are using fan-made posters. It makes no sense.
And this is first of all, this is Sony's movie. This is not Marvel. So Sony has to do one who actually does the marketing. But I agree that they're actually letting the fans market this one for them. Every single day, there's like a leak of Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield. That alone is getting more views and more clicks than a trailer would. So honestly, the movie is in good hands, even though it hasn't been marketed well. People are still going to show up just because of how much we've been talking about Tobey and Andrew consistently. We've been doing it on our own show so much, despite no trailer or anything of that nature. But because Empire Magazine, the reason I brought this up, not only because Jon Watts' comments in Empire Magazine calling it Spider-Man Endgame, which again hints at the fact that there's more than one Spider-Man, there's more things going happening in this movie than what the initial trailer is showing. But because Empire is showing up with this, you can expect that there's going to be a second trailer either next week or the week after. So I won't be surprised if the second trailer does give you something more definitive. Either a shot at Green Goblin himself, Willem Dafoe, or one of the two Spider-Man, if not even the money shot. I hope not the money shot. I don't want them doing what BVS did, where they spoiled the entire money shot of Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman trailer. I think that could have been saved. So let's hopefully for Spider-Man, they don't follow that up. But just because we kept looking at the shots so many times and it's so ugly, let's just look at the Dune, some Dune shots like that. Yeah, that there you go. That's some cinema over there. All right, so let's jump from that to some Star Wars stuff and talk about Hayden Christensen, because he got confirmed. Our boy Anakin is coming back to Star Wars after the Obi-Wan series. He's actually been showing up in the Ahsoka series as well. So, Umar, as the resident Anakin Skywalker fan, are you happy to see that our boy Hayden is actually getting more work and looks like Anakin is going to have a bigger role than just like a cameo at Obi-Wan?
Yeah, I think it's going to be awesome to see him back. I think what they're doing, what they're trying to do is just have the live action stuff catch up to like what they've already done in the animated world. And so, as far as him as an actor, I know like you make fun of him a lot. Everyone makes fun of him a lot. I actually think he's not a bad. I actually think he's not a bad actor. I think the right.
I think it's good. I think it's good too. I think he
Like,
got time to get into it. Yeah, I think by 3 he was really good.
Yeah, like in 3 he's pretty good. His range was very good in 3. I think they just write it better than some of the writing was bad. So you can't really. It's hard to work with like bad writing. So. And to be honest, it wasn't too bad. So
I think the one thing that's going for that actually separates this from Kenobi is that when we think of the Kenobi series, it's probably going to be more of like he is like Darth Vader or like Obi-Wan facing his demons. So it's going to be Anakin in like a negative light. But since Ahsoka will obviously take place after the Mandalorian, so it's after the Empire is done, it's going to be Anakin as a good guy, Force Ghost probably. In my opinion, that's what I think the direction they're going in. So we're going to see like future content of Anakin because obviously.
I think it's confirmed it takes place after Mandalorian. Yeah, after Mandalorian season 2. So it's current. Yeah, not current, like before the sequels, but after episode 6. But I do think you're making a point, but I agree with you on that. I think there's a lot that you could do. I think there's be flashbacks as well. I think it makes sense to put a flashback of Hayden and Ahsoka training together, or whatever the case might be. I think there's a lot of benefit there. But an interesting kind of segue topic before something I'll come to you in a second on the same thing is because I was thinking about the topic of nostalgia and how we would always kind of we made a point over the course of the last few years saying that, you know, when nostalgia comes, we shouldn't be hearkened to it completely where it becomes like a drug that, oh yeah, we need nostalgia, we need a hit of our childhood to feel like we're interested in something. So we will make fun of people, not make fun, but we will criticize those who are going to stuck on Christopher Reeve, for example, or stuck on Michael Keaton's Batman for The Flash. So people who grew up in that time in the 80s or 70s are always going to be looking for 80s and 70s stuff. But what's happening this decade is a nostalgia is geared for us now. Tobey, that's for us. Anakin Skywalker's coming back, that's for us. And suddenly we're all very excited. So
don't forget about Matrix.
And Matrix, right? There's a lot.
Yeah, I think it's different. I think it's 2 different things. So like, Chris, like, I think the problem, for example, right? One critique. Let's go with the Superman critique, right? That Christopher Reeve's Superman is like a version of the character that people hold on to, and then any project that comes out now, that Superman is not just gonna be compared. Comparing is fine because it's normal, but it's like he has to somehow match that version of the character. Like he has to be that. Like he has to be smiling. He has to be happy. Even though Christopher Reeves had his moments where he wasn't, but like there's a version that people have and they really stick to it. I mean, the Batman's coming out right now, and you have that group of people that are like, oh, and now with the added stuff of like, just people want the Snyderverse, whatever. People are like holding on to that more, but people move on. Like the trailers came out, Art Pattinson, freaking amazing. People are like, yeah, it's gonna be amazing. I don't think it's the same. I think, like, yeah, Tobey Maguire coming back. Like, you haven't had, by the way, you haven't had with the previous generation. You never had a chance to actually, for whatever reason, you never had the chance to like have someone come back, right? They brought back Luke Skywalker for the Star Wars stuff. You're bringing back Keaton now. Tobey Maguire's coming back. Andrew Garfield probably. Like, you have in this generation, you have the ability, and the studios are taking advantage of that. But I think it's a bit different, at least for what I think. Like in terms of my criticism of those fans, is like don't get stuck to like one interpretation. I forgot who was saying this. Like I heard this somewhere. Someone was talking about the Batman specifically and saying that it's like theater. It's like theater. Like those characters, they're like you can reinvent them every few years. It's like redoing a play of Shakespeare because you know the story. You know the main story. It's just they just change up a little bit. So I don't think it's the same.
I agree. It's not the same because you made a perfect point. Like for Superman, people don't say, "Oh, I wish it was Christopher Reeves." They're like, "Why isn't Henry Cavill Superman like Christopher Reeves?" So this is different because now you're bringing that actual character into what the current film. So it's not like, oh, Tobey Maguire coming back as Spider-Man. He's not a different character. He's that same character from before, which is different from the argument that, oh, why isn't Superman like Christopher Reeve's Superman? I like that version better. Well, this isn't a different version. This is that same person. Neo is that same character from those other movies. Michael Keaton is that same Batman from the movies from the past. So it's not the same argument in that way because you're not saying, oh, why isn't Pattinson acting like Ben Affleck's Batman? That makes sense. That, okay, you're trying to make a new thing. You want a new thing to be like the old version, but it's different when you say, okay, Ben Affleck's going to be in The Flash and Michael Keaton's going to be in The Flash. They don't clash with each other, or at least you don't have to say that, okay, why isn't he like this guy? Because you have that version in there. Obviously, that's not positive Christopher Reeve because we know what happened, but that's the difference in the arguments. One is, why isn't he like this? And the other is, let's just bring this exact version and bring him into current films or into a current iteration.
No, and you guys actually made a good retort. So actually, you balanced my point out pretty well. So good on both of you. But I will say that there is a point to be made that when people have been like catering to the 70s and 80s babies and those generations of people, it's because those are the ones who have the money. Those are the people who have grown up, who are willing to spend to get a piece of their childhood back, right? And that's what they're going to spend and spend and spend. So you cater to that generation so that they will spend out of their money to get a piece of that childhood. I'm just saying that now that the 90s kids are in their late 20s, now we're seeing pandering to the 90s kids, our generation, to spend on it, right? So I think it's not, I do agree that, yeah, bringing, it's not exactly apples to apples, so that's not an exact comparison, but I do think there's a reason why right now they're going back to the prequels instead of doing it 10 years ago. Like they're going back to prequels now, they're going back to, they're bringing Tobey now. I think it's the right time to cater to a certain fan base, an older fan base, our generation, rather than new generation. For them, it's always going to be Tom Holland's the reason why you see a movie, where for us, we've been more interested in this because it's Tobey and Andrew. There's people who hate Zack Snyder's Batman, but are going to show up for the Flash because Keaton's coming back and that's their Batman, right? So I'm just kind of seeing that comparison there. But yeah, it's not an ironclad argument. So you guys had a good response to it. Samir, do you have any answer to this debate, or you had no, like, do you think they were pandering too much to the 90s, or are you with Zion and Umar that we're actually it's nothing like it's not the same thing?
No, I have to agree with Zion and Umar on this one. I think you're wrong.
Okay. Oh, wrong. Wow.
Well, I actually didn't think. To be fair, I didn't think you were making that argument. I was just responding because like
Yeah.
it makes sense to me. Like it didn't like the point of like. Plus, their content create like a lot of the generation that is like in their late 20s now. A lot of them are probably behind the camera. They're doing things, and naturally, you would think that those people are gonna have certain like they would want certain things that they had in their childhood to like get reimagined or reappear or whatever.
Yeah, but that's why they're making Clifford the Big Red Dog just for you, Umar.
Actually, another point is that, like you said, okay, you bring these characters back in the past, but it's like the one argument where it's like Luke Skywalker, where in like episode 8, the people who watched him back then or grew up with those Star Wars films, they all hated what he was in the new movie. So it's like, are you handling the character right? There's also those complaints that, okay, he's not the version he was when I was watching as a kid. Like if Toby comes in No Way Home and he acts completely wrong, completely different to what he should be, we'll probably be like, oh yeah, you wrote him wrong, you handled him wrong, and right. That's always a fear.
Technically, then the point gets made that you are technically we are. It's the same problem.
Like we become that. Like we will become the very thing we swore to destroy. Yeah, quoting Anakin. I've quoting Obi-Wan, not Anakin. But Samir, I just want to say you are Anakin from episode 2. I just want to leave it there. I just want to make that point.
Exactly true. Sometimes he's Anakin from episode 1, but that's fun.
All I know is Timothée Chalamet in Dune was giving off a lot of Anakin vibes, especially when he was wearing his black suit or his family suit. Made him look like Anakin a lot.
You know,
it's kind of nice.
There was an article we wrote like years ago on Comic Debate. It's called the Chosen One Complex, right? And we had like all the writers kind of like give their thoughts on different chosen ones, and obviously Paul is a very stereotypical chosen one. So when his character is kind of being obviously there's a reverse kind of inspiration, because you can make Anakin's actually kind of based off of Paul, not the other way around. So, but Anakin, Frodo, Paul, they have like some characteristics of like this burden, and then they have to overcome it, but they also have all these expectations. And in this case, Paul is having visions of the future, just like Anakin did. And do you act on those impulses or not? And it's a very similar theme between the two, between all these characters. So definitely, I would agree that he was giving off Anakin.
I mean, the big thing about Dune was figuring out whether Paul was the one in the movie.
Yeah. Yeah, literally, yeah. And the one also like Matrix, so yeah. But yeah, Dune had we can not gonna spend time on this one, but this thing, but Dune had a lot of like interesting themes and stuff like that, which is one of the reasons why it's my favorite movie of the year, because it's just like there's a lot of layers and it takes multiple watches to kind of like pierce through it. And then those who read the book will even find even more stuff where they're like, hey, this is leading up to this is hinting at this. So there's something for everyone, which is one of the reasons, and it's just it looks gorgeous, like again the shots. Okay, so last topic before we head out. So Ruby Rose recently went to Instagram and she kind of just went off and said everything that was going on the Batwoman set, including injuries, including her own neck breaking, and then being threatened to come back within 10 days or everyone will get fired. Multiple allegations of people being abusive, people all over upper management being aggressive, and them even during the pandemic not stopping when it was just starting. So she just went off. She mentioned a lot of names, a lot of talks about accountability and things of that nature. And then Warner Brothers responded back. We've seen this play before, but they responded back saying that no, actually Ruby was the one who was being toxic, and we fired her before season 2 of that season 2 of Batman, season 2 of Batwoman. I don't know why I miswrote this, but overall, the point I wanted to make, because we're talking about like studio toxicity, studio culture, so I wanted to just retouch that as our last point, to spend like 2-3 minutes on it. But Umar, just hearing more stories about the culture at Warner's. We've heard so much about film, but now we're hearing about television just being like rotten on so many levels, allegedly, in Ruby's case, because there's still things to be discovered. But do you think that Discovery in a couple of years should really clean house, or is this par for the course? Like, this is how the culture is, and not much can be done.
Well, I think if it's white men taking over a studio with other white men, they're not really gonna look for a change other than if it's like business oriented. And that's my point. Like my point isn't. I think like whenever I've talked about this, I tend not to go to it like go through with a moral thing because I don't really expect that from like the world that we're living in. So it's like I think anybody that runs a business, like you want it to be the best for what it is, right? For whatever the intention is behind that. Now, why would you in anyone in the right mind, like why would they limit that when it comes to these things that are happening? Obviously these are injustices. And so ultimately, yes, as first and foremost, as Muslims, like, yeah, we're not like condoning what happens. I think what's really important for Discovery when they do come in is clean house just for a good business culture. And then, yes, I think that, they have an opportunity to change the way things have gone. And honestly, if you're taking over a company, yes, it kind of is your responsibility then to go back and look at what these allegations are and actually like bring some form of justice, like and that will go further, like that will go further than if it's just status quo. And even if you fire people, like firing people doesn't actually deal with the workplace, the culture at that studio, right? And this is not like you said, like it's not the first time. We've heard, everyone knows about Ray Fisher. We did that interview as well. There's also, I mean, just the four of us alone, before all of this, like before even in 2017, the people that we would talk to that were working with the studio, we know they told us, like we knew a lot of stories that would come out to like a year later. And so it's like that culture has been there for a while. And so to eradicate it, when you have another company stepping in and changing everything up, it's not enough to fire people. You have to actually kind of like put your foot down and be like, oh, well, this happened, this was wrong, and from a business standpoint, you'll get away with it in the sense of like it's not technically you, right? So like you shouldn't have like a hesitation from that lens, right? So I expect that I actually, to some degree, expect them to actually kind of like clean house, at the very least.
It'll be interesting. I do think, unfortunately, they're gonna, like you said, they're gonna think business first. So I do think if any of us bought a business, if I bought a business, the first thing I would do is I would replace all the heads of those businesses and put my own people in those places. So I do think that if Zaslav, in this case, who's the head of Discovery, when he comes through, he's gonna likely want to put his own people in all these head positions. So that's why people look at Toby or Ann Sarnoff and say, oh, these people are in danger because he'll put his own. Now, WBTV, that's like three divisions under WB Pictures and Warner Media, who's even above that. So it's a lot to ask to say they're gonna clean house. I did see that a lot of the production at the Batwoman, they've privatized their accounts, so they probably want to try to weather the storm, which is what the people usually do, because you keep waiting. The way human nature is, we're gonna forget and move on to something else, right? So and even I think they honestly, and it's kind of messed up to say, but they kind of caught a break because only one day after, then the Alec Baldwin situation happened where a cinematographer was killed on set, and there's a whole lot of workplace abuse that happened before that. So because of that, I feel like this story has now gotten safely tucked away. And that's why I wanted to bring it up just for a few minutes here, just to remind that this actually did happen and the culture is still kind of prevalent in the way that it is. Okay, so we're done with all our topics. So time to do one fun one. And normally I have like a food topic. I have something where we can like talk about something fun in terms of like not superhero stuff. But this time I'm going to go to superhero. I saw a thread that on Twitter the other day about Batman, and if these four Batmen walk in a room, who would win? And it had so many responses that actually some news outlets were actually making articles about this tweet. So I was like, interesting. Let's talk about it ourselves and debate. Of these four Batman, you put them all in a room, only one guy's walking out. Who's winning it? Is it Arkham Batman, Affleck Batman, Pattinson, or Christian Bale's Batman? Zian, you're the resident Batman fan, so I'm gonna let you go first. Of the four Batman pictured, which one would you say wins the fight?
See, now since we're going Batman and there's no handicap, there's no other rules in place. These are Batmans with all the technology, all of the prowess, and everything they have at their disposal. And I guess easy cutoff is, all right, Bale's Batman. He already looks like the weakest from all of them. No, not to him. Obviously, you know how his films were. He wasn't even that good of a fighter. But so obviously you knock him out. The Batman, he obviously is a very thin guy. And we haven't really seen what he's capable of. But just on size alone, you can cut him out. So really the argument is, all right, is it Batfleck or Arkham Batman? And honestly, I would go with Arkham Batman only because size-wise, yeah, Batfleck's Batman is a little more mass, but really in a muscular level, Arkham is just a lean version of Batfleck in terms of physicality. So he's a little faster. Obviously, his suit, and if you use Arkham Knight, it's armor, but also like some kind of like mesh thing where he's very flexible as well. So he has more protection than Batfleck would. And obviously his gadgets are obviously way more advanced. We haven't seen too many gadgets that Batfleck uses because obviously he's just like a brute and he just goes in and punches, and all he needs is fists to take down somebody. But if you combine the technology at their disposal and the physicality, I think Arkham Batman is like the peak of what Batman is and can be.
Umar, do you agree with Zian's opinion on this, or do you think another Batman could take Arkham Batman out?
So I agree with the first few points. I think that Christian Bale probably dies instantly. No offense, but he'll probably just not even fight. Like he'll just leave. Like, guys, y'all handle it. So I think that it's really between the other three, and honestly, there's not enough to really like Pattinson's Batman. Like, there's not enough that we got. Like in the trailers, he looks like he's very brutal, and he especially in like one of the scenes where he's and if you look closely, it is Riddler. Like you could tell he's punching Riddler. Like when Catwoman like sees him and like moves back, that's him punching Riddler. Because you can see the glasses and stuff. But basically, that scene kind of makes him come off a bit more brutal. Like he comes off like he probably kills as well. But Batfleck, we know for like without a shadow of a doubt that he kills. Like he doesn't care. And so I would say because he's the only one out of the three that's willing to go that far, I would say he takes it. I think he. It's not just knocking them out. I think he could kill all three of them, not give it a second thought, walk out the room.
So what you're saying is that he's gonna take his like bat plane and like fire his missile launcher right at the other Batman.
Yeah, literally.
No regard for anybody.
He'll kill all three of them. He doesn't care. He doesn't care. But I think that when we watch when the Batman comes out, I actually think this might be the most brutal Batman. I actually think he's gonna be like, I think he's gonna losing it.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen him electrocute people's necks. Like, I mean, he's going off in the trailer, but I still think he's a little too low tech compared to some of the other ones. Like, he doesn't have a bat plane. His Batmobile is a little more basic compared to everyone else's.
That's why I think it should be close. This topic would be better served, as it said. Like, you put them in a room and they don't really have, like, they're wearing their suits. They're wearing what they have on them, but that's what they're gonna fight with. And
all right.
Who takes what?
Yeah.
And if they're all fighting simultaneously, that's also kind of different. But I still think Batfleck wins just because he's too much of a beast. Like think he kills everyone.
Samir, do you have a different opinion than Zian or Samir? Or do you Zian or Umar, or do you agree with one of them?
No, I agree with Jon completely. I think he made all the points. Yeah, definitely Bale is out first. He's not winning at all. He lost like a dog or something in the movie. Remember? Like bit to his armor. And with that armor and that smoke screen you do at Bane, like the smallest smoke came out. It's like he has no gadgets, he has nothing. He's out first. He's done. Robert Pattinson, me and him were talking about this yesterday. He looks pretty scrawny overall. Like he doesn't look that.
Zian is done, bro. You took Zian.
He can't take the other two. Robert Pattinson can't take the other two. He's outmatched.
You got Zian, bro. It's over.
Listen, even if he is brutal, Arkham Batman is also brutal, and Ben Affleck kills, so he's out. He's out there.
Yeah.
But I think Arkham Batman would outclass.
Oh, he took so.
I think the Arkham Batman would outclass.
What did you say that made Zian lose it, bro?
That smoke screen is so bad. He throws it big. Like, what is he expected to do? It's like this little smoke. That's the problem with him. He's cool in some ways, but he's like so pathetic in other ways. He didn't say chance he's I guess.
It's a character-driven story. It's not about action. And also, Nolan, I'm gonna just be honest, like Nolan's weakest thing of his whole career, he's not good at action sequences. Like he's never been that good. Tenet was actually not bad at action, but overall, he's never been that good at action sequences. But outside of that quick Nolan slander, but I think I agree that Bale is the worst of the four.
I agree with Jon, it's me, right? Okay.
I do, but I'll give you my quick breakdown. Bale, like you said, he lost the dogs. He throws smoke screens, and even that Bane would lose to I think the other three. Like I would say even Pattinson could probably take out Tom Hardy's Bane. Maybe he can. Maybe he can. Yeah, I think he could. Yeah,
you kill him in 2 seconds.
Yeah, so I think if you consider Bane to be the strongest foe in the Nolan universe, these three Batman can all take him out. So and we saw the other guy got his back broken. So he's just not in the contention, especially if you take him in Rises, he was completely washed. I guess he was in his peak at Dark Knight, but even then he was losing dogs. So it's hard to tell where he stood as a character.
And he has like the weakest moral fiber. You know, it's like this guy, he gave up and retired for 10 years, like Gotham go to hell, you know, because Rachel died. Like that's not Batman. That was like one of the worst decisions, obviously, in my opinion.
Crime was down?
Crime was down, but like that's what they have to say, you know, because then
I think it worked out.
They were all behind bars because he took the
L. He won. Yeah,
like he won at the end, but he took the L. Like he actually made like the ultimate.
Yeah, because all the villains, all the crime they got from the Harvey Dent Act, they put everyone in bars. He took the sacrifice to make sure he stays White Knight. That Dark Knight's pretty perfect thematically, but
it's Rises that's the problem. No offense.
Rises.
I know Umar loves Rises.
Rises was good, man. I actually think that it makes sense. It actually makes sense that when Rachel dies, he's just done. Like he's done for a little while. Like he's not in his element, you know.
Sense of Alfred.
It's not. I'm just saying it's not like you know, like the other Batmen haven't really like. I think maybe with Jason Todd or Dick Grayson in the BVS stuff, but even that wasn't really that connected. Like it wasn't.
Right. So yeah, overall, so he's out. Pattinson again, too low tech for my opinion. That he just doesn't have the strength. Maybe he doesn't have all like the martial arts training. Like he's so brutal. He fights like it's a street fight, and everything is just very much punch. You know, he doesn't have many like combinations where we saw Affleck. He has combinations. Like he has multiple fighting styles where just the nightmare sequence alone, the warehouse fight alone, you see that he has multiple fighting styles, and he could take a knife, you could take a bullet to the head and survive. You could take a knife to the chest and be fine. So he's obviously very strong, but unfortunately, Arkham Batman, I agree with, unfortunately, sorry for you, Umar. I agree with Zion, and I don't think Justice League even added to it. I think Justice League, anything he did in Zack Snyder Justice League wasn't enough to put him over the top. Like, yeah, he did fight Parademons.
It was actually kind of worse.
Yeah, he didn't have like a good nightmare sequence. He didn't have a good, I keep saying nightmare. He didn't have a good warehouse sequence. He didn't have anything where he like showed that I can like take out a bunch of these guys.
He should have had a warehouse sequence
with Parademons.
With Parademons, but they should have made him like a beast, like make him kill everyone, like lay everyone out.
Yeah, because aliens, so it doesn't matter. Yeah.
Yeah, and then but they did the opposite.
Yeah, they didn't give much to do.
That scene was there. The scene where the Parademon is like throwing him around, it was there.
Yeah, so Arkham Batman, let's not forget there was a time where he would take his Batmobile and put it over people's heads just to make them talk. Like he's a scary guy. And then what's his face? Kevin Conroy, who we've interviewed and met a couple of times. He does a really good job kind of being intimidating. So I like the idea of this. Like we talk about Batfleck being 20 years, experience, but so is Arkham Batman. Like he is experienced and he has a fully mechanical suit and he has every single gadget under the sun. Like it's very similar to the Spider-Man debate, which we're gonna do another week, where it was like which Spider-Man's the best, and we were in a fight, and I would still say the Spider-Man PS4 version would win because he had just so much at his disposal that why would he not beat Holland, Andrew, or Toby?
Yeah, first. Yeah. It's the perfect parallel because Arkham Batman and the Spider-Man PS4 version, they're like they're obviously experienced, but they're at their like most peak. Like these are the best versions of the character in every single way, in physicality and strength and technology, in every way. These are the unstoppable versions of these characters. It's like, okay, you have obviously other versions like Batfleck where, yeah, maybe just in raw strength he is better, but in the other categories he's less. It's like Dragon Ball Z where Trunks went to he became Super Trunks, but Cell still beat him because just having that raw power means you lose that speed, So, but Arkham, he has the strength. He's like Super Saiyan 2. He has the strength and the speed, so he can beat Perfect Cell.
Everything you said flew over Umer's head. I just want to throw it out there right now. All right,
Yeah.
so
Also, are we? Also, you know, like Bale would probably he probably die. Like they actually kill him. Like, he
just fall over.
Like within the first 2 minutes, he probably died. He'd probably be dead on the ground.
he would just fall, bro. You just fall over. So.
But the thing is, Robert Pattinson and Affleck, and obviously, Arkham Batman. Like you have to kill them to get rid of you're not knocking them out. You're not gonna put them to sleep. You're gonna have to either kill them. And there's only one Batman that kills out of all of them.
Yeah, that's the only reason. Only one was a killer, but yeah, I don't know. We'll see. Overall,
but we won't
I
see
appreciate
it's not gonna happen.
we won't see. How's this? We won't see.
Actually won't see.
But
okay.
I appreciate that Samir just made John lose it by just talking about the smoke screen. You know, just like 2 small pellets. He's like, what? But so what did you guys think about Dune? Is it the best movie of the year? Let us know in the comments and join us next week to continue the debate. From myself, from Zayan, from Umar, and from Samir, we're the Farooqi Bros, and we'll see you next time.